of July the 10th, 2019 to order. Our first order of business is hearing of residents. We had no one sign up, so we will depart that unless somebody in the audience has got something they want to tell us beforehand. All right. Don't see any hands nor no bodies, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have one item on the consent agenda, and that is the minutes of June 26, 2019 regular meeting. All right, commissioners, anybody need to take a look at this, discuss it, or anything? All right. If not, go ahead.
Make a motion we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. We'll call, unless there's any discussion, we'll call the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. All right, our motion carries. Item number 4 is our public hearing. The public hearing is going to consist of 2 items. We will open up on item A, the first one. What we will do is have the staff make their presentation. If the vendor is here and wishes to say anything, then we'll give him that opportunity. And then we will allow the audience to chime in and ask questions, make statements. If anybody does come up to speak, I will ask you to please state your name and address for the records so that we can identify who you are. All right, item A, ZC 2019-003. Hold a public hearing, consider and act upon a request to rezone approximately 64 acres of land to a planned development district, PDD. The subject property is contiguous to the existing parkland plan development and approximately 1,000 feet west of the intersection of Engle Road and Private Street, Big John Lane. Staff?
Good evening, Commissioners. So as you mentioned, the subject property is outlined here in green. To get your bearings, this is Eckert Road. This is the existing parkland zoned properties, Engle Road, the Private Street, Big John Lane, and once again, subject property outlined in green. Currently, a portion of the property is within the city limits and zone pre-development. There is an additional portion here that is zoned as part of the existing Parklands PDD, and then the rest of the subject property is under a delayed annexation agreement. The applicant is requesting to rezone all 64 acres to a planned development district, which will consist of single-family residential uses and public parkland. On June 28th, 5 mailers were sent out. At this time, we have not received any responses in favor or opposed. Additionally, on June 28th, the public hearing notice signs were placed on the property. So this is the zoning exhibit that shows this portion here, which is the proposed parkland addition, and then the Parklands 2 MDP portion here. The Schertz sector plan from 2013 did not evaluate this area of northern Schertz. Therefore, the future land use map still shows this as single-family residential and agricultural conservation. Since this area has not been evaluated since the comprehensive land use plan, the current designation of agricultural conservation does not account for the various residential subdivisions in the area, including the parklands immediately adjacent to the Parklands 2. So this is the proposed MDP exhibit. I just wanted to show it to you really quick, and then we're going to go through kind of the highlights in a slide in just a minute. The proposed master plan does separate the subject property into 4 separate units, each of which contains the 3 specified lot sizes, 7,200, 8,200, and 9,000. The PDD design standards do stipulate an average lot width of not less than 67 feet and a median lot width of no less than 65 feet. It also does stipulate an average lot area and a median lot area, all of which does have to be met in each platting phase. The proposal does consist of 122 of the SF 7200, 47 lots of the 8200, and 45 lots of the 9000, totaling 214 lots, which comes out to a density dwelling units per acre of 3.52. So this is the overall Parklands and Parkland 2 kind of merged together, so you can see how this would fit with the existing Parklands. So just as a refresher, all of this here, including the 5-acre park here, and all of this is currently zoned PDD under the existing Parklands. And then the proposed zone change for tonight includes this portion of park and this kind of rectangle here. In terms of the park, they are proposing an additional 2.67 acres to the existing 5 that was done with Parklands, and that's outlined by the dark black line here. It would increase the total park to approximately 7.67 acres, and they have indicated additional park improvements, including interactive musical instruments, picnic tables, benches, pickleball courts, a second playscape playground, a baseball diamond, and additional sidewalks. So just so you are aware, this is what the current Parklands MDP exhibit would allow in this area. Single-family residential lots, a street, and then a kind of a drainage easement there. So this is what they would be proposing if the Parklands 2 zone change was approved. Like I said, this is the MDP exhibit, and I wanted to highlight some of the items that are stipulated out of the PDD design standards. So the first thing is there is a east-west residential, 70-foot residential collector depicted on the master thoroughfare plan. With that, they are providing a 35-foot right-of-way dedication, a 20-foot open space buffer, and then all of the lots that back up to that 20-foot open space buffer and the right-of-way would be required to install a 6-foot wood privacy fence with masonry columns. That's identified by the red line. And then they are providing two 20-foot pedestrian access easements that would go from the right-of-way into the Parklands 2 subdivision. Additionally, they are providing a stub from within the subdivision to the proposed east-west connector. Additionally, they're proposing multiple access points to the existing Parklands zoned property, one here, one through the main entrance, and then another in Unit 4. Also in Unit 4, they're proposing a stub to the adjacent residential property. Some of the other big highlights out of the PDD, all of the lots that are outlined in purple, they would be required to have a 30-foot building setback line rather than the typical that the rest of the lots would have. With that 30-foot building setback line, they would be requiring one additional tree. So all residential lots in the city have to have 3 trees. Those lots in purple would be required to have 4, and a minimum of 2 would have to be in the front yard. So trying to really jazz up this street here and these lots here, making them a little larger. The houses would be set back a little bit more and having a additional tree in the front yard. Additionally, all of the areas outlined in kind of the yellow gold would be 20 feet open space areas with a tree planted at a minimum of 50-foot intervals and an 8-foot meandering concrete walkway to really try to, along with the kind of pushed back setbacks on this side, more open space, more trees, that meandering sidewalk, all of which kind of lead towards the private park area that they're proposing in this area, which includes internal trails, a gazebo, park benches, additional landscape features. All of this is really designed to, provide that community's pedestrian access, walkability concept, and really be that main focus. So as soon as you come into the main entrance into Parklands 2, the first thing you'll see is this kind of private park, really adding character to the Parklands 2 overall development. So with that, based on the surrounding subdivisions, including the existing Parklands, increased park area for Parklands and Parklands 2, provided open space, increased fencing requirements adjacent to the open space, the 8-foot meandering sidewalk, the curvilinear streets that they've incorporated, and increased landscape requirements, staff is making a recommendation of approval. And the applicant is here if you have any questions for him.
Go back to that last slide, please. This is a Scribner question. You
There
had
is-
ZC 2019-006.
There was an
In the
error on the
paperwork,
agenda.
It's 003.
Yes, there is an error on the agenda. So when we did the public hearing notices, the notice signs, the mailers, everything was sent out as 006. The staff report does also have 006 on it, but there was that error on the agenda.
So the Scribner error is on our paperwork, not the screen.
Correct. 006 is correct. This is accurate. The 2019-006, that is the correct case number for this, but realistically, once this goes to City Council, we'll have an ordinance number, and the ZC is just an internal case
All
file
right,
number.
we'll need to reflect that our agenda was corrected, please. Okay, let's go ahead now. Developer, you here? You want to say anything?
Had someone else work on this one. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you, Emily, for that presentation. We've worked, since we last presented, we've worked really closely with them and had, I think, a great collaboration to kind of come up with something that really followed what was intended with the original Parklands. I just want to just go through, we have a couple of exhibits that I think will help show some additional information about what we provided on this. I'll just go through it really quick. If you have any questions, please stop me. This is the overall, as you've seen in the previous exhibit, and the park, trying to give you really reference to everything. Close-up of the park as it exists in Parklands. This was the layout. Really, it's a 70-foot layout if we just gridded it out. Of course, we did not want to do this. Really, the idea was how are we going to come up with a project that given the rectangular shape, how are we going to give something character similar to what we've worked so hard on in years past to give Parkland its unique characteristic and its PDD approval. Closer look of it. This is what we sat at last time. Some of the comments were connectivity, request to have more of the characteristics of the previous plan. Where's the identity of this project? What makes this special? What makes it similar to Parklands? And this is the exhibit and the submittal we have. And as Emily said, the idea was when you come in, we have the main park, which is private to this unit, but also a signature to this section of, in addition to Parklands. As you come in, you're going to have a big private park and a tree-scaped area, and immediately have really the larger estate lots that we will follow either front the major park or front a 20-foot greenbelt lot with additional trees. The idea there as well, and sitting through previous councils and P&Z, was there's always concern that this drag right here was a concern of ours. So we said, all right, well, what can we do to really address that? And we've made those 125 feet deep with the 30-foot front setback to allow for additional off-street parking, keep people off the street along this stretch. And then by placing that 20-foot greenbelt lot and putting an 8-foot and oversized meandering trail along this side, we really encourage everybody to stay off of the side that had the driveways and just have it a continuous section where you'd pull all these various units, 2, 3, and 4 down to really a controlled, tree-covered and wide open. And you'll see in this next section what that might look like, all the way to that opening park space, and also continued it in the other ways you see it highlighted. The close-up look of it, what that would look like, the meander in the trees, the additional trees. Of course, there's the requirements of the trees per lot already in place. These would be the additional trees placed. And right here shows a cross-sectional view as you go along that street. We'd have the 30-foot setback, of course, a 50-foot right-of-way for the street, the 20-foot green belt, and then there's a 10-foot setback off the side lot. So we have essentially a 110-foot corridor, a very large corridor, really peppered with trees all the way through, and then again encouraging pedestrian traffic opposite the driveways, encouraging people to not park on that roadway, and taking the pedestrian traffic, families and joggers and walkers and such, further away off the street and away from the traffic, and having a really a area of, I guess, pedestrian access that's really defined on that one side. And I think wanted to make sure you saw that one just to see the intent there. Price range is we're anticipating somewhere in this range. Of course, you never know. This is kind of what Parkland is sitting at now, but a lot of these lots will be probably exceed this range, especially at the ones that have the additional trees and setback and larger size that front parks or front the 20-foot green belt. This, as you see, just how it fits in with the overall project with the green belts. This section over here, it was hard to see in the previous layout because it has assigned to it either a school designation or residential lot designation. At this time, the school district doesn't appear to have interest, and ultimately this could, will, at this point, likely become a residential lot. So you see a little bit, I guess, more clearly what that might look like as you go through. And additionally, with this project coming online, it would allow for additional funding for the private components, not just the entry private parks with the gazebo and the central meeting area, but also the developer would contribute to a neighborhood pool, which would be located right about this location, around that first curve. So being able to contribute to an otherwise amenity that would not exist for the project. This is a parking exhibit you've already seen. Just a close-up of what we just said. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you very much for your time.
All right. Audience, we will open it now to questions and concerns and comments from the audience. Anybody got anything? Come on up to the mic, sir. State your name and address for us and fire away.
My name is Ronnie Schott. Live at 1300 Engle Road. My property borders two sides of that subdivision. If I could you show that last map you had up there? The whole subdivision, the whole thing, Parkland's the whole thing. All right. I don't know how to operate much of this stuff. Let's see here. All right. See where I got the arrow right there? That area that's all green? That's my property right there. This green area right here. I have a fence that's washed out right there. And then this creek runs through here and goes out this side of my property right there. Last time we had a 5-inch rain right here. It's approximately 150, 200 foot across, was 4 foot deep with a 5-inch rain. It washed out that fence right there, went across over here, and it's washed out that fence. And that was a 5-inch rain, which is not a flood. And it, again, I've got over here on this side, over here, there's an area of about 300 feet that it gets 4 foot deep. So all this area right in here, it doesn't take much. You're talking about all these green spaces, it's all green space now, and that's what happens. Another one of my concerns is, I heard her say something about a drainage deal, but I couldn't tell where it was at. I don't understand where where they're gonna put all these retention ponds, and how big are they gonna be? They're gonna have to be awful big. That stock tank right there that I've got, right there, it took a 7-inch rain one night, bone dry, filled it completely up, overflowed it, and washed out fences. Went down and flooded Engle Road, had 6 foot of water over the bridge that's been raised 4 foot already. Then it goes down down Smucks Lane. There's another bridge down there. It flooded that bridge. You know, there's some serious, if you look at this subdivision, you can't tell it here. But all this area here on this side, this whole Parkland subdivision is on a slant. If you go on the other side up here, that's all on a slant coming back at it. So it's got an area where you got 2 hills draining into each other, this whole area. So if they got these houses down here in this greenbelt area, they're going to get flooded. I really think they need to reconsider some of this. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from citizens? All right. If not, then we're going to close the public hearing. 6:22. And we will start our debate. Mr. Commissioners, anybody got anything?
I concur with the gentleman about the flooding up there. That every time we have a 4, 5, 6 inch rain, it's a mess. And like you said, there's just 2 big hills that come to a valley right where that subdivision's gonna go. I don't know how much work they've done as far as flood investigation or anything else.
So there's a couple things. I just want to make sure that everybody is under the same, understanding. Tonight, we are only talking, and the vote and the approval or recommendation to council is only for this portion. All of the rest of all of this up here, all of this has already been approved. It is parklands, and the drainage will be reviewed with the preliminary plats and the final plats by our city engineer and our engineering staff to make sure the stormwater management plan, doesn't affect adjacent properties in the same fashion that we do all the rest of our plats. In terms of the Parklands 2, there has been some initial discussions, but same thing. If this were to get approved with each individual unit, we would review the preliminary stormwater management plan with the preliminary plat and a final with final plat to make sure that it is in conformance with all of our stormwater management plan regulations. I don't know if y'all want to add anything on the engineering side?
I'll add something. My name is Bert Wellman with KFW. Can I go back to that bigger picture? So the thought with our drainage is the gentleman is correct that everything does kind of funnel towards these low areas here, but we do this is actually sort of kind of a quasi-low, but the main low kind of runs through here. But this is an area that we've identified for some detention here, and then also in this area here. So we have two areas, fairly large areas identified for detention there. And we already have a large pond that's already constructed and built with Parklands Unit 1 here. That's addressing the water coming through, this tributary here. So I just wanted to point that out, where we're planning for additional detention to handle the water coming from this development. And, the intention of this area here, where my cursor is to try to leave that as natural as possible, so we're not channelizing flow through that to a certain extent to where we're leaving it natural and letting the water, you know, get through that area. But upstream of that, we're holding it back and mitigating that increase in flow. And so I just wanted to point out these two areas right here were planned for more detention in addition to what we already have here with Unit 1.
Thank you. All right, Commissioners?
I have a question. If you could just tell me again, on the lots on the northern side with the 30-foot setback, what was the thought behind that distance?
The thought behind that distance, we're going to add basically 5 feet. All the lots currently are 120 feet. We would add 5 more feet to both plant a tree and allow for the potential for additional driveway parking instead of on-street parking. Give it more depth setback off of the roadway, and then really try to keep the homes off of there, provide that wide open corridor, and then also allow people to hopefully be able to park more cars in their driveway instead of the roadway.
All right, while she's thinking about your answer, I'm going to ask you one, same area. In the purple line, when you showed us street elevation a while ago and the setbacks, it's okay, you don't have to go there. You'll get it. Do I see a sidewalk on the left-hand side of this particular?
Yes, Commissioner, it's right here. It's kind of hard to see, it's fuzzy, but this is your standard 5-foot sidewalk. We're not removing it. This is your standard right-of-way for your local residential streets. That would be, there's no alterations per this PDD application. That will stay standard. The non-standard portion of this would be the 30-foot setback versus your 25. And then also the 20-foot green belt, which would be a private green belt that would include the additional trees, and the 8-foot sidewalk that would allow better pedestrian traffic off of that roadway. This is traditionally where that sidewalk would be within the 50-foot right-of-way.
All right.
We're going to move it.
On the left side, yes, I see the 12-foot you've allocated over here between pedestrian pathway and house, and as long as that house is turned sideways, cars won't encroach or shouldn't encroach across that sidewalk. In your 30-foot setback on the other side, your example picture is just right. If that house is only 30 foot from the street, then those 2 cars are almost going to set in the sidewalk again on a front load. Most vehicles today are close to 20 foot long, in case you haven't measured them recently.
Obviously, it depends what card. We couldn't guarantee any type. If it's F-250, typical parking spaces are 9 by 18. I know it's 10 by 20 in Schertz, but cars vary, and when you park individually in your own driveway, it's a lot more. There's a lot more potential to hug that closer. Not everybody is always going to have 2, 3, 4 cars. It just more states there's potential for it. Also, we've noticed that in general, this is more of a forward thinking, that I think we're going to find in the future there's going to be less people owning vehicles, right? Everybody has 2 vehicles today, but we're going to see in the near future that Uber, not that this is a conversation about it, Uber is going to take away from the potential for people driving. This is more of both setting the stage of let's stay off of this park setting that we're trying to achieve within this small addition to this project, and then if you do have 2 smaller cars that you can park there. Versus a 25 where there would be no opportunity.
So these aren't street trees. These are trees that are actually in private yards.
This one is in the 30-foot setback. That one will be in the private yard, and that'll be an additional mandatory tree required per lot. And then within a 20-foot green belt, that would be planted by the neighborhood and within the private green belt, outside of a residential lot. So this one right here would be green belt tree, and this one would be a residential home tree. And of course, it's not showing the other 3 trees that's required per the standard city ordinance.
So with the ability for cars to park tandem in the driveway, the idea is that you're keeping cars off the street so that it's a streetscape as you drive in rather than cars?
As much as possible, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, because you're not going to keep cars from parking on the street.
No, I agree. The more of the thought is there's potential for that. We understand that people will park in the street, but this will give the opportunity for it to be more of one, there's a potential for a 3-car garage. 2, there's a potential, if they do have small cars, they can park 2 cars in the driveway, and they would be less likely to park in the street. And with that, we provided and more of this is about the 20-foot green belt, where you get people away from going across driveway and driveway and driveway. Keep a safe, controlled pattern of with that 8-foot sidewalk dedicated green belt. So, more of an accent. It's not a solution to everything. I don't think we can find a solution to everything, but it's more of this is what we thought that would add both larger lots, there'll be our premium lots along that stretch that would front that 20-foot green belt, that would have the extra trees, we'd get a premium along that corridor that everybody feels as they come in. And so it's more of trying to get that feel. We can't predict 100% of it, but really doing our best to work with what we have and do something that isn't traditionally required, or that isn't required of your normal ordinances. So giving extra along that stretch is the best we can.
We're supposed to park in our garages anyway, but
I agree.
Just as a quick procedural item, since there are only 4 of you here present, to have an affirmative, it would take a unanimous vote just as a procedural item.
Well, all I can do is say that for the commissioners and for staff, that as these plans come in, because when we originally started this project, we talked about the problem with water out there. And as we get bigger, we do the fill-in, that it's going to increase the potential of problems with water. And I don't know how big the drainage ditches or drainage tanks are going to be. I don't know how high a wall they put around them, if any. But I do know that if they haven't measured the water that's going through now over the years that they've been working with this project, and they wind up putting excess water onto the property of the gentleman who's talked tonight, there will be a fairly large problem in the future. And we need to make sure that we address that as an organization before we let that happen. That's my last comment. Commissioners, anybody got anything else?
I'd just like to add this is a big improvement over what we've seen in the past, and I appreciate the work that the developer has put in and along with city staff. This is a big improvement. Related to flooding, there's a lot of topography out there, and flooding is a serious issue. We've heard again from the gentleman that owns the property. We have an engineering staff, and the developer has an engineering staff. We have to put our trust in them. Whether it works or not, who knows? But I'm not an engineer, so I'm going to put my trust in the people who have the title behind their name, and I have to go with that. I can't do anything else than do that. Chair, take a motion? Will the chair entertain a motion?
Unless somebody's got something, we're open, then yes, Chair will entertain a motion.
Is this 03 or 06? What is it?
06.
I make a motion that we make a recommendation to City Council that we approve this zoning change for PC 2019-006 as it's presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve ZC 2019-006 to send it to City Council with a recommendation of approval. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. All right, motion carries. You got it. All right. We will move to our public hearing, item B. We will open the public hearing on PC 2019-019. Hold a public hearing, consider and act upon a request to approve a replat of Enterprise Industrial Park Lot 10, an approximately 32-acre tract of land generally located approximately 2,000 feet north of the intersection of Schertz Parkway and Lookout Road, City of Schertz, Comal County, Texas. Staff.
Get your bearings. This is Lookout Road. Schertz Parkway is kind of in this general area. This is Door Lane. The existing Enterprise Industrial Park buildings, the newest one, and then the subject property is outlined here in green. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on some of the replats that have happened. So on September 27th, 2017, a replat of Lot 7 established via previous replat was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission to subdivide Lot 7 into two additional lots, Lot 9 and Lot 10. So this is Lot 9, and then this is Lot 10. So this replat is to further subdivide that lot into Lot 11 and 12, which would create a total of 7 lots within the Enterprise Industrial Park. So this is the proposed Lot 11. It is approximately 11.46 acres, and the proposed Lot 12 is approximately 19.66 acres. Since it does split pages, I tried to put it together as best as I could here. It doesn't match up quite as well when you try to do it on the screen, but this gives you a full picture of what Lot 10 would be replat into Lot 11 here and Lot 12. The proposed lots are designed to have access onto Lookout Road through a variable width ingress-egress easement that extends throughout the Enterprise Industrial Park subdivision. So it does extend through from Lookout. The variable width ingress-egress easement comes up and then would be extended into Lot 11 and 12 here. The site is serviced by Schertz Water and Sewer, CPS, AT&T, and Charter. The city engineer has reviewed and approved a stormwater management plan for the subject tract. No roadway improvements are required since it is not directly adjacent to a public street, and the replat is consistent with our codes and ordinances, and staff is making a recommendation of approval, and we do have the developer here in case there's any questions.
Does the developer wish to say anything at this time?
My name is Emiliano Guerrero. I'm with Titan Development. I don't have anything specific. I'm just here to answer any questions you may have. We're just keeping on with the development as is, and no new changes or anything of that nature, just same old development.
All right. Since this is a public hearing, it's time to ask the audience if they have any questions, comments. All right. If not, then we will close the public hearing. 6:39. All right. Back to commissioners and staff. Commissioners, comments, questions, concerns? All right, I hear quiet. If there's no questions, comments, or concerns, then Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion, we approve 2019-019 as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve PC 2019-019, a replat of Enterprise Industrial Park Lot 10. Reason to hold? If not, then we call the question.
I have a question. The drainage for this, does it drain south or north, basically?
On this one, generally south. So we have underground drainage already in the road. We're going to be tying into that underground drainage, and we have these large channels here. So it goes down into here and into that eventually culminate in these channels and into these intersections of the road.
That's good, thanks. My concern it related to flooding again, now that we're paving all this area, a concern to the city that we need to be on top of maintaining and make sure that Dietz Creek is adequately maintained and cleared and leveled. There's been a lot of infill lately over the years since it's been made. Here he comes. And as we get more pavement out here, we need to make sure that Dietz Creek can handle what it was designed to handle. That's my concern.
All right, anybody else? If not, we'll go back to calling the motion. All right, we'll call the motion.
I'll restate the motion. We
All right,
approve PC 2019-019 as presented.
Second.
all right. Jen's restated. Richard seconded. Anybody else? All right, we'll vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. All right. Moving on to item 5, requests and announcements. Request by commissioners to put things on the future P&Z agendas. Anybody? All right. Announcements by commissioners about city events attended or community education.
Nobody attended the fireworks. It was a fantastic show. Thank HEB for the money.
Anybody else? Then we'll move to item C. Staff, you're up. See, she says no, and he jumps like a rabbit.
We have one announcement. I'm going to wait for him to come up with me, though.
He was shaking his head no,
That's
too.
right. He's afraid of y'all. He saw how this went, and he thought, I don't want any part of it. No, real quick, I want to introduce you to the new Assistant City Manager, Charles Kelm. He took Dudley Waite's spot. So he oversees HR and purchasing, Public Works, EMS, Fire, PD, Fleet and Facilities as well. So he's sort of learning the community. He's lived in the community for quite a while, so knows it pretty well, but learning the city organization, including what all the different boards and commissions do. So just wanted you to be able to put a face to a name and introduce Mr. Kelm to you. So we are certainly happy to have him. He's jumped in feet first and is doing a great job. So.
Welcome on board.
Thank you very much.
Look forward to seeing you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. James, for that fine introduction. And as a resident, I do appreciate what you guys do, have done for our city. So thank y'all very much. It's not an easy job. Being an engineer, I can relate to some of those design questions. But thank you for what you do.
All right. If staff has nothing else, then commissioners, anything? If not, then I'll entertain that motion. All right. We are adjourned.